Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is Mr. Purdy here again on Friday. Usually record these videos on Friday. This actually begins Unit 8. I kept talking about how important Unit 7 is and how it gets you to the door of Chipotle and how we just simplify, we factor, we divide, we multiply. We've done all kinds of things, but really all we've done is simplify. What we're going to do in Unit 8 is kind of finish the picture. And this is going to finish the school year here. And this is just as important. This is going to help you get the actual answers. This equation is your general form of a quadratic equation. And we have factored this. I'll write something very similar. And we factored this kind of thing. I'm just going to make something up. 3x squared minus 6x plus 11. Now, I'm not going to actually factor this one. I'm going to show you this is actually a quadratic equation. If you match it up, excuse me, don't worry about the y equals. We have an x squared. We have an a. So the a is going to be 3. We're going to do this when we do the quadratic formula. This is the a. The b, and by the way, these are plus signs, but they could be plus or minus. The common practice is just to put a plus sign, but they could also be minus. So the b is going to be negative 6. And the C is going to be 11. Like I said, we're going to revisit this in a couple weeks with the quadratic formula. Just want to show you this is kind of what we've been dealing with. And it's important to see the big picture and all of that. So what I'm going to do, first of all, so this by the way is every bit as important. Remember we spent like a couple of units on this. Y equals mx plus b. And actually as you walk away from algebra, I never want you to forget this. Y equals mx plus b. M is a slope. M is the slope, and B is the y-intercept, and of course, X and Y is just your coordinate. That is really, really important. And as you know, we spent lots of time on that. This is just as important. And what we've done is we factored this. So let me give you an idea. We took this and we factored this. This was Unit 7. Okay, this is actually one of the most important slides I could ever tell you for this unit. So just watch this slide carefully. What we did in Unit 7 is we factored. Notice there's no equal sign. We didn't do any solving. What we did is we factored, and it was fine. We took 24, and we want factors of 24, that when we subtract, remember this last term is negative, quite often that's what we've been dealing with. Factors of 24, that when we subtract give you 5, and that's 8 and 3. Very simple, 8 and 3, 8 and 3. Stay with me on this, okay? This is this first part's review, but then I'm going to really show you what the whole point of this is. So x squared, now we want a negative 5, so we're going to write it as negative 8x, negative 8x, negative 8x. It's funny because you're never really done with factoring. Okay, we might leave it, but factoring is always going to come back. It's one of those things. It's all like an equation. Never, excuse me, never going away. So there's what we have now. We can factor this by grouping now. We can factor out what's common here as an x. We're going to go x, and then we'll go x minus 8. Okay, and we know this is also x minus 8. Okay, and to get that, we got to factor out a 3, so plus 3. And so, in Unit 7, we spent lots of time doing this. And by the way, I hope you do that last homework assignment, which was a whole bunch of factoring questions. I think there was like 12 of them. That's a very important homework assignment. Please make sure that's done. Okay, your answer for Unit 7 was this, x plus 3 and x minus 8. And that was great. We simplified the trinomial into the product of two binomials, and we factored. That's a very, very important thing. But see, that's not the final picture. That's not the end game. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to take the same problem here, but now I'm going to set it equal to 0. Now we're going to solve and get our two solutions. And I'm going to spend more time on this in a couple of slides from now. I just want to give you the big idea. So x plus 3, we have x plus 3. When we factor, we got x plus 3 and then x minus 8. This is like the point to the whole unit right here, so stay with me on this. So now, we factored that, but now to solve it, we're going to set it equal to 0. We're going to use something called the zero product property. And here's what you got to ask yourself. Remember, if the value of this is 0, it doesn't matter what this is. Remember, anything times anything is 0. So if the answer is 0, then one of these, or both, has to become 0. Excuse me. So here's what you got to ask yourself. Here's what you do. I'm going to remove the parentheses. I'm just going to deal with the x plus 3. I'm going to go x plus 3. This is called the zero product property. I'm going to go x plus 3 equals 0. So I'm going to set each one of these separately equal to 0. And then I'm going to go x minus 8. I don't need parentheses anymore. I'm just going to go x minus 8 equals 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve both of these. So here's the question you got to ask yourself. What number for x, what number plus 3 gives you 0? Well, that answer is negative 3. If you were to solve this one-step equation, we know that x is equal to negative 3. Now, we call that a 0 because if you were to plug a negative 3 back into this binomial, negative 3 plus 3 is 0, and that's going to give you 0. Well, 0 times, this could be a million. Doesn't matter. The answer is 0 because this is 0. So we call these answers solutions or zeros. We're going to talk more about that next week. Okay? And then we'll solve this one, move the 8 over, excuse me, and so x equals 8. And so there's actually two answers here. And by the way, there's always two answers because this is x squared. I don't know if you can see my little circle here. Anytime you have an x squared, it's two answers. See, when we factor, we got two binomials. That's going to give us two answers. So the answer to this, and this is the final game, the end game, is going to be 8 and negative 3. And I'll show you how to write that in the next slide. Purpose of this, I just want you to see the kind of the big picture here of what we're working with. Okay, let's move on. You need to grab your graphing calculator. You can hit the pause button on the video if you need to. I want to show you, now that we're solving, I want to show you kind of what these look like on a graph. We didn't need to do that in Unit 7 because Unit 7 was all simplifying. But now that we're solving, it really helps us see the picture. So what I got this from an old textbook. Now they use f of x. Now we know that f of x is nothing but a y. So all of these are really just y. So when you put these in the calculator, you can just go to your y1 button. Just go to your y1 button. Go to your y button. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to do something here. I think it's going to work, but I'm not sure. So here's the calculator. I think you can see this, but I'm not sure. I want you to hit the y equals key, and we're going to type in x squared. Here's how you do it. Find the x key and hit the x squared key. This is all I'm going to show you on this calculator. X and then x squared, and then minus 1. And then hit the graph key. And when you graph it, you should see a parabola, and that one's going to match with letter A. So we can put an A right here. We're just going to match these up. And these aren't going to go in the same order. So what I want you to do is hit the pause button on the video, hit the pause button, and try to graph all 6 of these. I want you to get used to graphing these. I'm going to write the answers up, and then you can hit play and get the answers. So please hit the pause button on the video, and I'm going to put the answers up, and then you can see how you did. Okay? Just hit the pause button, please. Please, please, please. Okay. Okay, and D. Okay. All right, when you hit play, these are your answers. A couple of things I want you to notice here. Notice for C, when there's a negative sign in front of the x squared, that's going to move it downward. See how the arch goes down? Okay, if it's a positive number, it goes up. A smaller number will actually widen the curve. You think it'd be the opposite. You think a large number would do that, but it's a small number that widens it. The larger number, like the negative 3, will make it more of a narrow curve. I just want you to be aware of this as you get into Algebra 2. Okay? All right, that's that. I can go over this again when we do our classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but let me move on. Okay, I'm going to show you, there's 4 ways to solve a quadratic. I'm going to show you 2 of them today, 1 next week, and then we're going to spend a whole bunch of time doing the quadratic formula. So let's do this. The first way, remember, there's 2 answers because this is x squared. The first way, if you notice these are perfect squares, is to take square roots. So what I'm going to do, to solve for x, I'm going to take the square root of both sides because they're already perfect squares. So I can go x is equal to 6. Well, hang on, Mr. Purdy, didn't you say there were 2 answers? Yes, there are. Because you've got to take the positive square root of 36. You also have to take the negative square root of 36. Now remember, this negative sign is not on the inside, so it's okay. So negative 6 also works. Why? Why does negative 6 work? Well, think about this. What is negative 6? If you plug it back in, negative 6 squared is also 36. So there are 2 answers here. Positive 6 and negative. In fact, one way to write it is this sign here. Positive or negative 6. That means there are two answers, positive 6 or negative 6. Okay? Let's keep this ball rolling. Take the square root of both sides. This is probably the easiest and quickest way. So b, remember the square root of b squared is just b, is equal to, remember it's equal to the positive square root of 64, which is 8. Everybody knows that. But it's also equal to the negative square root of 64 because negative 8, when you square it, is also 64. So we can accept both answers, positive 8 and negative 8. Okay, same thing here. Speaking of k, hit the square roots of both. All right, so k is equal to the positive and negative square root of 225 is positive and or negative 15. All right. Sometimes you're going to get, they're not on opposite sides, so I'm just going to move the negative 36 over. So we're going to have m squared. By the way, there's another way. We could just factor this and get the same answers. I'll show you that later. Okay, is equal to 36. So I'm just going to move it over. I'm going to move the negative 36 over to the other side. Okay, so m is going to take on a couple of answers. And for you inquiring minds, you probably already have a whole bunch of questions here about what about this, what about this? I'm going to try to get to everything, I promise you. And if not, bring your questions to class. Okay? But please, 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 all of you, keep doing your work. Okay? I'll give you a little song treat here. When students don't do their work, my, oh my. Okay, students are not doing work. My, oh my. All right, yes, I heard that song on the radio. It's kind of catchy. I don't even know who sings it or anything. It's just like that, my, oh my. Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes when people don't do the work. My, oh my. Ugh. All right, a little bit more in-depth equations here. Let's keep going. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of work, so I'm going to move the 3 over. These are all, by the way, these are all in your notes. These are all in your notes. Look on Google Classroom, look on Blackboard, it's all there. So p squared is equal to 9. Okay, and then p is going to be equal to 2 answers. A lot of times on the quiz, I just get 3, positive or negative 3. In no particular order here. Sometimes, okay, let's move the 30 over. Sometimes you're going to get a bad answer here. You'll see. Move the 30 over, and forgive me again, I'm writing with my mouse, so it takes a minute. 7x squared is equal to negative 21. Okay, divide by 7. And so x squared is equal to negative 3. Well, you cannot take the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of this and get x. The problem here is this. You cannot take the square root of a negative number using real numbers. In Algebra 2, you'll find out that's radical 3i. But in this one, there's not going to be any solution. No solution here. In Algebra 1, no solution. Why? You cannot take the square root of a negative number. Don't confuse that with this. We're taking the negative square root, okay? Here we're taking the negative square root of 9, okay? To get, okay, see what I'm doing here? I didn't do the square root symbols here. We're taking the positive square root of 9, that's 3, and the negative square root of 9, that's negative 3. That's not this thing right here. This is a negative inside the square root. See, it's not inside the square root here. Okay, no solution. Okay, let me do a little bit of erasing here because this is going to get kind of crowded. You'll find this in the notes. I'm just going to move this over. I'm just going to move this over here. Let's just save a little time. I'm going to add the 4x squared to both sides. You move that over just like you move a number over. So 7x squared is equal to 112. Okay, divide by 7. And so x squared is equal to 116. 16. And so, what are the two answers? X is equal to positive or negative 4. Okay? By the way, if you ever want to do a U-try, just hit the pause button. That's always how it works in the video. During class, sometimes I'll do that. You know that. I'll do a U-try. But if you ever want to just try it yourself, a lot of you like to do that. You want the challenge, try it yourself. Just hit the pause button. I'm going to keep moving, though. That way I don't have a 65-minute video. All right, I'm going to add 20. My videos are already long enough as they are. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm teaching you what I'm supposed to teach you. So a squared is equal to, so we're adding 20 to both sides, a squared is equal to negative 100. Now keep in mind, 100 is a perfect square, but you cannot take the square root of a negative number. This is no solution. Mr. Purdy, I thought you said there were two solutions to these. There still are. These are two imaginary solutions. You'll do that in Algebra 2. So in Algebra 1, we put no solution, but there are still two solutions. They're just imaginary solutions. When you get to Algebra 1, they're going to be this. They're going to be A is equal to positive or negative 10i. I represents the square root of negative 1. You'll do that in Algebra 2. Okay, last but not least, let's just add 2 here. I want to show you that sometimes you'll get something that's not a perfect square, but that's okay. It's still positive. So 1/2 x squared, 1/2 x squared is equal to 5. Okay, multiply both sides by 2 because it's 1/2. And so x squared equals 10. Now, 10 is not a perfect square. That's okay. It doesn't have to be. As long as it's positive, we can still do it. So take the square root of both sides, and what you're going to get is x, excuse me, is equal to the positive or negative. Now, 10, the square root of 10 can't be simplified, so just leave it as the square root of 10. As long as it's positive, you can still do it. Okay, it doesn't have to be a perfect square. Okay, question. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm used to being in class. I'm having questions. No, it's a video. Come on, Mr. Purdy. Okay, that's square roots. Okay, that's part 1. Remember, there's 4 ways to solve this quadratic. After I teach you the 4 ways to solve a quadratic, we're done for the year. That's it. We're done. We can dot the I's, cross the T's. You're done. I'm going to show you 4 ways. That's the first way. This will be. I'll talk about this on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. It'll also be during the class. It'll also be on the homework and that kind of thing. Okay. So I will do the other half of these notes on, so you're thinking, Mr. Purdy, what about the other column? We will do that in class. So hopefully you print out the notes when you watch this video, and then we'll do the other half in class. Okay, the other one, this one's actually even easier, is called factored form. So what we need to do is factor it first, if necessary. Now, some of these are already factored, but then we got to get the answer. Now, keep in mind, I'm just going to cross this off for a second. Keep in mind, in Unit 7, that we were done. We factored a trinomial, and we were done. But now in Unit 8, we have the equals. Now we want to solve. So remember what I did a couple slides ago. I'm going to take each binomial separately, and set it equal to 0. Because we're going to get 2 of our answers. Now there's going to be 2 answers here. Always 2 answers. The rest of this year, 2 answers. Okay, so what number, think about this. What number for x, just work with this problem right here. What number plus 5 gives you 0? There's a number that when you add 5 to it, you get 0. And that number is -5. Now, -5 is your first solution. Remember, these are not solutions. These help you get solutions. See, we factored this in Unit 7 to help us. Now we can factor it, and then we can solve. The whole idea is to solve. What number minus 3 gives you 0? And that answer is 3. These are your 2 answers. In fact, we're going to write it like this. This is not an ordered pair. I'm going to use that funky looking bracket. I'm not using parentheses. And I'm going to write these as it looks like an ordered pair, but it's not. And this is not x and y. These are 2 values of x. This is called a solution set. These are 2 values of x that make this equation 0. So if you were to plug in -5 here or 3 here, you would get 0 as your answer. So we're going to use these funky looking brackets that I can never really do very well, but that's the answer. And these are both x's. It's called a solution set. This is not x and y. This is an x and this is an x. By the way, we did this with absolute value. Remember that we solved absolute value equations. So we've seen this before with absolute value equations. Okay, this is already done, so we're going to write them separately. Sometimes you'll get fractions. That's okay. I prefer fractions. So I'm going to take 2x minus 5, set it equal to 0, and then I'm going to take x plus 6 and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to add 5 here. I'm going to add 5, so I'm going to just make this a 5. Divide by 2, you're going to get 5 over 2. You can do it's just a two-step equation. You can do that. Work pretty easy. 5 over 2 is your first answer. Leave it like that, 5 over 2. And the second answer is negative 6. These are the two solutions. That's what counts. This helps you. Factoring helps you. That was important. It sets you up for solving. This is the main idea. Okay. Let's do one more that's already done for us. So you're going to get 4x plus 6. Now this is squared, so you don't need to write it twice because you're going to get the same answer. It's just going to appear twice. We call it a double root. So now I'm going to move the 6 over. So I'm going to move the 6 over and get negative 6. I'm just going to move the 6 over. Divide by 4, and x is going to be equal to 6 over 4 or 3 over 2. You can do that. Again, you can do this very easily. Okay? Now, you can write it twice. You can write it twice, or you can put dr, which means it's a double root. I'll show you what that looks like on a graph a little bit later. Okay, that's kind of where we're at when it's already done for you. Now, let's kind of put this all together. Let's go back, because a lot of times you're just going to get this as a problem. And I'll show you how to solve this on the calculator next week. But for now, let's just factor this. Let's factor this. We want factors of 4 that add up to 5. So we're going to use 4. Factors of 4 that add up to 5 are 4 and 1. So we're going to go x squared. Looks like an Xbox X. I didn't need to do that. Sorry. Plus 4x. My, oh my. Okay. Plus 1x. Plus 4. Equals 0. We've done this before. We factored. So factor out an x. You're going to get x and then x plus 4. And then you can have to actually factor out a 1 here. So 1 and then x plus 4. Now, equals 0. That's important. Equals 0. So now, I'm going to continue that problem right down here. I'm going to continue this problem. Let me just erase all this. Let's just finish this problem. So what you're going to have now is x plus 1. X plus 1. These take a minute, but you know, you can do it. X plus 1 and then x plus 4. This is just the same exact factoring we learned in Unit 4 or Unit 7. Now, we're just going to take it one step further. Now, we're going to solve. What number for x, when you add 1, gives you 0? That's negative 1. I think I can take a little shortcut now. I think we're kind of getting this. And what number plus 4 gives you 0? And that would be negative 4. Solution set. And by the way, the order you write these doesn't matter. These are both x's. So you can put the negative 4 here and then the negative 1 here. Just like when we solved absolute value equations. The order didn't matter. As long as you have them both, you're fine. Okay, let's move on. And again, I think this is the back side of the notes. We're going to conquer the other half of this in class. Okay, now, we could solve this using square roots. We could hop this over like we did last time, but let's just go ahead and factor. So we're going to get x. This is the difference of two squares. We can do this very quickly. We don't have to group it or anything. X plus 6, x minus 6. This video is actually almost done. We got this and one more slide and we're done. Kind of a short video today. So your answer is going to be negative 6 and positive 6. So we're going to take on two answers. So plus or minus 6. So x is equal to positive 6 or negative 6. Keep in mind, if you were to hop the 36 over to this side, just like we did a couple slides ago, you would get x squared equals 36. Well, if you take the square root of both sides, you're going to get the same answers here. In fact, it's really cool. Next week, when we graph this, these are going to be the two x-intercepts. We're going to do this on the graphing calculator next week. Okay. All right. Doesn't matter which order we do these last couple in. Let's just do these real quick. We want factors of 40. We want factors of 40. Factors of 40 that when we subtract give you 3. That's 8 and 5. This is negative again. Boy, that's quite often that last term is negative. So we're going to go x squared. We're going to go x squared. We want a negative 3. See, this is why factoring is so vital. It always comes back into play. We want a negative 3. So we're going to go negative 8 plus 5. See, that gives you the negative 3. Okay, and then minus 40. None of this is hard. It just takes a little while. Okay, what's common here is x. I'm going to be all over the place here. Factor out an x, and you're going to get x minus 8. Okay. What's common here is a 5, so plus 5. And then x minus 8. Equals 0. Don't forget that now. Equals 0. We're in the big leagues now. So now, I'm going to have to finish it up here. There's need lots of room. So I'm going to go x plus 5. X plus 5. This is our answer in Unit 7. In Unit 7, we were done. X plus 5, x minus 8. You're done. You just factored it. But in Unit 8, we want to go all the way and eat our burrito. Walk into Chipotle and eat our burrito. So now, the answer is going to be -5, -5, and +8. Why? Because these two numbers will satisfy this equation and get 0. So our solution set, in no particular order, is -5, 8. Okay. 2 more. Bring your questions to class. Okay, you might have some questions with this. Just bring it to class. All right, let me do these last 2. Let's do this one first. This one is 2 terms. It's not the difference of 2 squares, but you can factor something out. We can go x and then x minus 5. Sometimes that's good enough. That's all you're going to do. Remember, there's still 2 answers. So I'm going to write this one first. I'm going to go x equals 0. So we know that 0 is an answer. And then x minus 5 equals 0. X minus 5 equals 0. So 5 is the other answer. So 2 answers here, 0 and 5. Now, Mr. Purdy, why 0? Well, if this x is 0, it doesn't matter what this is. We're going to get 0 as an answer. So if x is 5, it doesn't matter what this x is. Okay, it doesn't matter what that is. If x is 5, okay, we're going to get 0 anyway. So 0, 5 are our 2 answers. All right, last one on this slide. Sometimes you just have to factor something out, like always. So we're going to factor out a 2. Remember, you always want to ask yourself that. Can we factor something out? Yes, we can. Sound like the old President Obama. Yes, we can. Okay, now, remember, 2 answers. This 2, because there's no variable, this 2 is part of your, remember I said it's part of the, you want to include it as part of your answer in Unit 7, but you don't need to in Unit 8 because there's no variable. 2 is just a constant. 2 is going to be 2 forever. We care about where the x's are. So we're going to factor x squared minus 81. We're going to get x plus 9. We're going to get x plus 9. And we're going to get x minus 9. X plus 9 and x minus 9. Now, mind you, there's still a 2 here. But that's not going to affect the answers. It's still going to be the same answers. The 2 will not come into play. Now, if there was a 2x here, if this was 2x for whatever reason, that would, excuse me, that would be an answer because that's where the x is. But if it's just a constant, it doesn't matter. So your answer is going to be -9 and +9. 2 answers. And we have satisfied, well, I cannot do those brackets. We have satisfied the solutions. That's it. All right, last slide is I came across this in an old textbook. I want to show you how we can kind of put all this together. This is kind of where the honors picks up the baton here. Imagine for this is our last problem here. Imagine for a second this is a bedroom. You're doing a house renovation. So you have a rectangular bedroom. You see this big rectangle here, but you want to cut out a space for a closet. So you have you get your master. The bed here, the dressers, okay? Maybe put a bathroom here, that kind of thing. But you gotta have a closet, right? All right, especially a big closet, right? So let's do this. I like this problem. This involves a lot of stuff. The figure to the right shows a large rectangle, the area of a bedroom, and a smaller rectangle cut out. This is the rectangle here, cut out of the bedroom to build a closet. The area of the bedroom after the closet is removed is 35 centimeters squared. Let's find the value of k. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to find the area of the whole rectangle. Well, the area of the whole rectangle is going to be length times width. So we're going to go k. I like this because this involves a lot of stuff that we've learned the past couple of weeks. We're going to take k times k plus 6. Whoa, Mr. Purdy, you lost me already. Okay, we're going to find the area of the whole rectangle. Remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So I'm going to take 2k plus 6 times k. All right, now we want to subtract the area of the closet. So minus Well, that's going to be 3 times k, which is just 3k. So let's just distribute the k. Boy, this is a great one. This one has it all. 2k squared plus 6k minus 3k. Last problem. We're done. Okay, let's simplify this. 6k minus 3k is 3k, so 2k squared. So 2k squared. I hope you're trying these with me when you do this. If all you're doing is watching the video, it's not going to help you very much. Okay, now it says, remember, once it's removed, when you subtract it, it's removed now. So this is the area of just the orange is equal to 35. Don't worry about the centimeters. 35. Great practical problem. Now, solve for k. Find the value of k. Well, we can do that by factoring. Now, when you factor, you need to have everything on the same side of the equal sign. So I need to take the 35 and move it over. So we're going to have 2k squared plus 3k, stay with me, we're almost done, minus 35. See the positive 35? Move it over, minus 35. Because remember, when you solve, it has to be equal to 0. You can't have, unless you use square roots, you can't have a number on the right side unless it's 0. Okay, everything has to be moved over to the same side. Now, nothing can be factored out, no perfect squares. Let's just take 2 times 35, which is 70. We want factors of 70 that when we subtract, we're going to get 3. And that's going to be 10 and 7, right? 10 and 7? 10 and 7, I believe. So we need a positive 3k. So we're going to go 2k squared. We're going to go 2k squared plus 10k minus 7k minus 35. I wish I had a stylus, but I could write so much faster and so much neater. Still writing with that mouse. Okay, what's common here is 2k. And then k plus 5. See, folks, factoring isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I'm telling you. Not going away. You cannot be like, oh, I can get by without knowing factoring. You have to know factoring. You have to. I'm leaving my YouTube channel up for the next couple of years, okay? And it's nothing about me personally. You just need to make sure that you always understand factoring. So I will leave my YouTube channels up about with these videos about factoring. So if you ever need it, please refer to it. So now 2k minus 7. So now we're going to go 2k minus 7. I'll be done in 2 minutes. 2k minus 7, and then k plus 5. Now, all of that equals 0. Remember, we want to solve for k. Now, in practical terms, k cannot be negative, okay? You got a positive area here. If you look at k plus 5, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to erase this so I can finish this problem. Sometimes you have to do that with these. So we're going to do this. We're going to do 2k, just as our lesson today. We're going to take the factoring answer that we got, 2k minus 7, and solve. So we're going to set this guy equal to 0, and we're going to set k plus 5 equal to 0. Well, let's do the k plus 5 first. If you solve for k, move the 5 over, you're going to get k equals negative 5. Well, a negative number in a real-life problem is not practical. Negative 5, don't get me wrong, negative 5 is still an answer, okay? It's still good. It's still an answer to this problem if you do it correctly. But in a practical problem, we cannot accept a negative value for k because you can't have negative area. So k has to be positive. So we have to accept this one. Even though negative 5 is an answer, we can't really accept it in this real-life problem. Okay, so now 2k is going to be equal to 7. Divide by 2. And the one answer that we want after all this work is 7 over 2 or 3.5. If you're doing it with measurements, decimals might be a little easier. That's the answer we want. And that is a great, great honors question. This would definitely be an optional problem on a Unit 7 test, without a doubt. Okay, I hope you all are doing great. That's it. Please try the notes, have the notes ready for class, and then be ready to do this homework assignment. Remember, I need all these assignments done and turned into me. Just take a picture of them and email them to me if you need to. I hope you're staying safe and healthy. I love you all, and I will see you live and on the computer soon.